Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Making Like Two Humans Being. This is the show where Kate Foggo, with me as always, and I talk about being human in a world where we are actually intuitives. We're animal communicators and intuitive coaches. And the different things that come up as being human and how do we work through it, not as human beings, but also having these additional tools in our toolkit, if you will, of being intuitive. So today, what we thought we'd talk about is what it means to be a soul level animal communicator to ourselves, as well as what it may mean for the world. I don't know, we'll see where the conversation goes, but that's where we thought we would talk about today. So we hope you'll join us. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave comments down in the comment section of the video. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and you can subscribe to this channel, share it with others, and also hit the little bell and you'll be notified of when we have new episodes. So without further ado, soul level animal communication, Kate. Good stuff.
It's a biggie.
It is a biggie. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, because I was reminded as we were talking earlier, but I was reminded yesterday about the difference between animal communication and soul level animal communication. And me, well, both of us learned through Danielle. I don't know what your expectations were, and that'd be good to know. But when you started learning animal communication, did you understand about the soul level bit, or did that just come up and bite you in the ass later on?
That's a great question. I don't know. I've never really thought about that. So I studied with another group of teachers before I found Danielle MacKinnon, our teacher, our soul level teacher. And I think I knew that animals were more than we would give them credit for. And I always idolized Dr. Dolittle and things like that. I knew when I would see construction happening and trees coming down and, making the way for humans to live, but what about all the animals that live there? Where are they going to go? I had all that feeling. I think when I studied with the first group of teachers, we really focused on what some of us call 3D animal communication, which do they like their food? Are they happy? Is it time to transition? How do they want my help? Those types of questions. And I feel like studying with Danielle MacKinnon just kind of opened up eyes to, oh no, they're actually working alongside us, helping us get to a better place. So how about you? What did you think?
Well, I was on a spiritual quest, and at that point, animal communication hadn't come into it, and it was actually my sister who happened to be staying here, and she's like, "Oh, I've got this webinar, we have to go on it," and we watched it together, and she chose me to talk to Sally, and I didn't even twig then, even though it was all about Sally the cat pushing boundaries. It was all about why Sally pesters me for food and why I get so worked up about it and all of that. And it was only as we were learning, and she said in the classes that people don't realize when they start the animal communication, that there's actually a huge spiritual journey in there. And I was like, yeah, bring it on. I was just really excited. So I didn't, it all felt very natural to me. And it was only when we started building the business and having to go out there and putting yourself out there, and I just think animal communication is the coolest thing in the world. So I had no hesitation in telling people I was an animal communicator, but then I found, and I still find, the bit I'm hiding is the soul level bit, and it's not in my nature to hide stuff like that, I don't think. And I'm not, there's probably a bit of digging there as to why, but this all came up last night as well as I approached. So Julie and I also work with an amazing group of animal communicators who do events for animal charities or animal welfare organizations, as you call them, we call them animal charities, online events where we do like readings. So we volunteer our time as a fundraiser. And I had approached, this is the first time I've done it in the UK, so I'm really excited about it. I'm scared, but I went straight to the animal charity that I got my hens from. And I was like, I'm so excited. I really want to do this. You know, I would love to give back. Are you interested? And then she was, and then, you know, and that's fine, but in the end it ended up being a no. But then I felt that crushing again. It's sort of like this reinforcement that I have to hide that side of it. Now I don't know at what point I didn't discuss the soul level, so we should probably tell people what we mean by the soul level, actually. So when we say soul level, what we're saying is beyond, as Julie said, the 3D, what they eat, what they like, what they want to do. It's actually what purpose they're serving in your life. And you may not think there is one, but by God there is one. And once you start looking, it's everywhere. Every single animal, every relationship you have with every single animal, however distant or whatever, is teaching. They are all doing something under the covers, or not even under the covers. It's just we don't pick up on it if it's actually happening right in front of you. And once you know that, you can't unknow it. But it's that element that people seem to have resistance to, about, well, don't be ridiculous. Even like, I know so many, I think all my friends are animal lovers. I can't imagine being friends with anyone who's not. But this is just a step too far for them. And I find it hard because and this is where I wonder, is this a childhood thing of being sensitive? I am not aware of that boundary like that, but there is one, and I know it's there. I can't rationalize it because I don't feel it, but I do feel that fear between your dog likes beef and your dog's trying to tell you to calm the fuck down, you know, that sort of thing. So it's a boundary that I'm very aware is there, but I couldn't articulate it.
Yeah. The you know, even realizing that your animals are here to help you. Like I will say, your animals are here to help you evolve to your greatest level in this lifetime. Because what I've even found too is that animals will come back with us lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Actually, and that's happened in the last couple sessions, last couple readings I've had. The animal is like, you know, not in this lifetime, but the last one we worked on that. So this time I'm forcing you this way. And I've also had a lot of animals tell their humans that they're to open up their intuitive abilities, but getting people a lot of people are really resistant to this soul level. The client that I had Monday night, she was just curious if her dog was in the process of transitioning. And I said, well, yes, but he's doing one last large push to get you to move forward on opening up yourself to other modalities, intuition, all of that type of stuff. And you know you have it. And she confirmed she knew she had we all have them, but she confirmed that she knew it. But she was just like, I kept seeing her dip her toe in water and then pull it away. And well, which is, I should say, is another part of how our readings are a little different, is we actually connect in with the human before we connect in with the animal to get a sense of the human's personality as well. For me, usually the animal uses those snippets to kind of describe what they're working on. And this animal used her toe going in the water, going, no, put your whole foot, put your whole body in that water, because you are needed right now to be able to do this. So I'm kind of going all over the place, but yeah, this soul level to me is just, for me, it's also, you said spiritual journey. This actually kickstarted my spiritual journey. I mean, I knew in somewhere in my, deepest parts of me that we were not, I'm going to just say it this way because languaging can also be limited, but we as a species are not superior to everything else. There's no we all have reasons why we're here. The my piece of pie analogy, everybody's got a piece of pie, extends to all the insects, all the animals, all the trees, all the plants, all the weeds. So I knew on some level, but once we really started asking the question, why are you doing this? Which is really, to some degree, the soul level in a nutshell. It really fosters that connection to nature and that deeper connection to spirituality, spiritualness, higher power universe that I feel like
how I feel about it, and sorry, just interrupted.
You're good.
Zoom.
No, I was done.
So going back to the we read that book together. I create. What was it called?
I create.
I am. I create. I see us humans as almost little naughty children, like pushing the boundaries, going to learn things, creating new life and all of that. And it's almost like the animals are that loving parent that's just there to sort of nudge you in the right direction. So we have all the creative power, if you like, and we are the engines of life in general, of pushing it forward. But we, in order to be, how to explain this, in order to be that creative and that excited and blinded almost by, you have to have a certain naivety, I think, to be a creator like that. It's almost like we just blunder around all excited and everything like that, and it's actually the animals are the sort of just keeping the wisdom going and keeping, so we've got that creative spark, but they're about nurturing the environment to make sure that we're actually able to use it to our best ability. That's sort of how I see it, and everything else is all here to support us one way or the other, regardless of how we view it. And that's quite a powerful thing, but it's not in an egotistical, because we're human and because we're special, but because we fucking need that help, because we're just blundering around because we are not connected to source in the way that we could be or should be, and we've become less and less connected. So we need these loving guidance around us to keep, because we're not able to filter the messages ourselves. I don't know where all that came from. There you go, there's connection to source.
That was lovely. Yeah. You were channeling right there. Good for you.
Channeling.
Yeah. The other thing I will say is that for me, that soul level animal communication has opened up is it's the ability to play, and it's really tapped into my own natural curiosity in a way that I used to think, you grow up here in the States, you grow up, you go to college, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, any order really anymore of that, I don't really care. But at that point, it was like, do it. And then I got to be mid 30s, maybe even early 30s. And I'm like, this is boring as hell. Who wants to continue to get up every day at 6:30 or whatever time, drive to an office, do the stuff, come home, do the things, go to bed, only to repeat it day after day? I'm so freaking bored. And I also was beginning to be burnt out. It took another 15, 20 years before I did anything about it. But I just remember feeling that all the time.
Me too, actually.
Say what?
Me too. When you say it like that, it makes me realize how long I was just in misery. Like there's all this excitement, allegedly, but there is a level of excitement of I actually got higher in my career than I ever thought was possible. No giddy heights, but certainly higher than I ever expected to. And I was, and every now and then I'd look at myself and go, oh, I've done well, haven't I? But that, and then the next 15 years was shit. Until I gave it up. It's just awful. It makes me really sad.
Yeah.
So just for the record, that's my goal in life, is to help people get the fuck out of that trap. It's just awful, and so much wasted time and so much nothing's wasted. It is. It's wasted. It's wasted.
Yeah.
Wasted time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for all the skills that I learned. And it's so funny is I always thought I could, so we just watched Inventing Anna on Netflix. Have you watched this? Highly recommend it. Inventing Anna. It's about, we should talk about Inventing Anna at some point, because I feel like it's a commentary on a lot of different things, and I'm not going to go into it. But anyways, I'm watching this young woman deal with people who are at like the top echelons of society, but also like the finance world and all these different things. And I always felt like I could run an agency, be that woman that stepped out of the pages of Vogue. Like I wanted all of that type of stuff. And part of me still likes that luxury aspect of it. But my whole career, I never I never had all of that ambition where I would sacrifice my sleep, sacrifice my time with my dogs, sacrifice, reading a good book, because those things were always more important. And so like I got as high as director level. I never made it to VP or president or whatever. And meanwhile, everybody around me that I knew growing up, they were all at those levels. And I'm just like, oh, and I always felt bad about myself. But at the same time, I was also like, well, I didn't really want to work that hard. But now I understand why, because that wasn't my calling. This is more my calling, to help people. And I even say it on my website, is connect to your best self, something to that degree. But it's that connection to the higher power, to nature, to yourself. And that's what can bring you into the light that you're supposed to shine on this world. So
there's it's a very, very simple saying, but I love it. And that's like, nobody ever on their deathbed says, I wish I'd spent more time at work.
yeah,
Like,
right.
Because I sort of went up to those levels, but by not even default, by accident. I was never ambitious to do that. I had to be forced into project management. I was just a techie. I was a software engineer, and I sort of got into the people management. Actually, was very good at it, a very good project manager, and then I suppose he was my boss's boss went off sick. That was it, So I was just, someone had to do it. Basically, is really how I got there. It wasn't by design. But yeah, not for me. I even got coached. Fortunately, my boss, although he was an absolute psychopath, I don't mind saying that because I can't imagine he'll ever watch it. Typical psychopath. But he got me to actually, the head of the office in the UK was a woman. It was great working for an American company in Britain because actually they are very gender fair. My boss had actually wanted me to have coaching with her, and interesting, but you know what, she was trying to tell me how to be a manager at that level, and I was like, yeah, but I don't buy into that. She was basically saying that I couldn't be one of the boys, and I was like, well, that's your style of management. I find that people are far more likely to do a good job if they see me as one of the boys. It's like, I wasn't like, you're not, that you had to hold back this level of reserve in order to get respect. And I was like, that's not how I see respect. I see people treating me with respect because I treat them with respect, and because I'm fair, not because I'm pulling rank on them, not because I'm anyway, all of that. But, and I just thought, this isn't what I want. But and it was sort of, it still upset me when people said, well, you've never really wanted to be a senior leader, have you? It still pissed me off because I was like, well, I fucking did it, didn't I? And I did it very well. Better than most of you, frankly. But, see, it's still ego in there somewhere.
There's, because I had a similar situation. My last boss was always trying to tell me how to be. And I remember telling her how I believed that everything happened for a reason. And I remember saying that to her. And she's like, oh, you're one of those. And I'm like,
have you told it?
One of
have
what?
You told you're an animal communicator yet?
Later, no, after that, I told her I was an animal communicator. Oh, and here's what's so interesting. She's not gonna watch this either. Here's what's so interesting is she actually had me read her animal. I had come back from meeting Danielle. So I met our teacher at the Omega Institute. That's how, and I had already studied animal communication with this other group. And then I went to go, I had an opportunity to go to Omega. I've always wanted to go there. She was speaking. So it was a weekend thing. And I came back like, so I was just buzzing. I was just like, oh my gosh. And so when I told my boss, she wanted to know where I had been, which I was on vacation. It didn't matter. She was just making small talk. And I told her exactly where I was. And she said, what? And so then I explained it a little bit more. She's like, so you could talk to my dog? And I said, sure. And she said, well, I don't really believe in this. And still trying to prove to everybody, there's still a lot of ego. And I'm not Eckhart Tolle, who says he doesn't have an ego. God bless him. Anyway, so I said, yeah, sure, I can talk to your dog. So I did, not there and then, but afterwards, when I had some quiet time, plus being in her presence just always threw me off. It was like getting close to a magnet that would repel you. Like her energy and my energy just did not mesh. Anyway, so I did afterwards. Well, her dog was actually starting to transition, and she was in denial of it. And he had several things he was preparing her for, and that's why he was going through transition now, but he was really working on doing a lot of things for her before he left, and because she doesn't believe in any of this and whatnot. So I told her what he said, and she then told me I hurt her feelings. And I'm just like, it wasn't, okay, here's the ego, like in defense, right? Like, it's not me, it's a puppy. But it wasn't a puppy, it was a very old dog. But anyway, I just remember that. And I remember thinking, okay, so I remember thinking like, okay, uphill climb to get others to hear what we do. She's not also my target audience. So coming from the advertising world, but it kind of strengthened my resolve to do this.
I was going to say it didn't, at no point did you think, did I get that wrong?
No, you know what, Ed, now that I think about it, no, I didn't think I got it wrong, because I knew I didn't get it wrong. And it was in the physical world, it was clear this dog was transitioning because it couldn't hold its bladder anymore. It could barely hold its bowels. Like, things were happening. It's like, duh. But it had some specific things it was doing. So it didn't, but it's actually strengthened my resolve, because I thought it was another reason. So me feeling for so long with her that I wasn't worthy, that moment actually kickstart the, oh no, wait, I have connections. You are denying them. I feel sad for you. I hold space for you. I send you love. I cannot do this anymore. I have to go this way. So, and the other thing, I was going to ask you this question too, so I do want to hear your answer. The other thing is how animals led me here. So Lucas got me to this point, because prior to that conversation and me meeting Danielle, he had broken my leg. Like 6 months prior, he had broken my leg, which was the first step in backing away from the career.
Not with a hatchet, please explain.
Oh, no, not. So my dog we were hiking out when we lived in Alaska. We were hiking, and we were, you know this story, right? Do you know the story?
Not really, no, I know. I know you fell over, but I didn't know the story. No.
Oh yeah, okay. So we were hiking on one of our favorite trails, and we were about 1.25 miles from the trailhead. It was it was in January. It was 4 degrees Fahrenheit. It was late in the day in Alaska, so it was like 3:30, and so the light usually at that time will probably be gone by 4:30, 5 o'clock. So we were hiking. I was getting ready to walk up this big hill, and he was at the top, Lucas was, and he saw me. He was out running around with my husband and I. And he started running down towards me at a high rate of speed. Now, we've just learned he's also got greyhound in him too, so he's very, very fast. And he was coming right at me, and there was also some ice involved, and I had cleats on my shoes. So he's running at me, and I'm trying to get out of the way, but he nails me right in the front of my front leg, right below my knee. And I felt I heard a crunk and I just sunk to my knees. And I have bad knees when I was growing up. It's a thing. But anyway, so I thought, oh crap, he just blew out my knee. Well, I couldn't put weight on it at all. I had to kind of crawl and pull my way up the hill. My husband didn't really believe me. We get to the intersection of the trail, and then the trail that goes back to the trailhead, and these people stopped and asked if we needed help, and my husband's like, no, we've got it. Meanwhile, the sun is going down, it's getting colder. We had been working pretty hard, so the sweat is starting to, so we start to go down the trail to get to the car. I'm telling this really longly. Anyway, that's how he broke my leg. It took us a while to get down the trailhead, which I could go into detail. Took a while to get down the trailhead, but yeah, I actually broke my tibial plateau, which is the very top of your tibia. And it's what the knee uses to help articulate. And so I now have a steel plate and 6 pins. But because of that accident and having to have surgery and all that stuff, I didn't work in the office. That was January. I didn't go back to the office till April. So I began working from Zoom way before COVID. And that disconnection from the office life and the drama, and particularly the energy of my boss, was like, I can't go back and do this again. And I really resisted. I tried to find every thought. I scheduled my PT. I would have an hour and a half of PT 3 times a day, 3 times a week. I would schedule it on purpose during work hours because it got me out. So anyways, it started that whole thing. So Lucas was, and then while I was actually in bed with my leg, that's when the advertisements for Danielle's workshop at Omega popped up. And I'm like, I gotta go. I had other animals lead me to animal communication as a whole, but how did you get here, Kate? Did the animals lead you here?
Yeah, Sally, definitely. So my spiritual journey started just when my mum, I just had a breakdown. Basically, I was not looking after my mum. My mum had dementia, but she wasn't that advanced then. She was still living at home, but it just consumed my time, and I was just getting more and more miserable. And I had a breakdown. I was off for 6 months, and then when I went back to work, I was well again, but I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Just couldn't. And I remember actually Gary saying to me, he says, I worry that, that's my husband, we had the chickens, we'd got the chickens a year before, and I had been at home over winter, I suppose, because I don't know when I got my depression, but it must have been over winter. And then it sort of occurred to me that, you know, I was leaving for work at 5:30, I think, in the morning, and not getting back till, I would come back earlier, so I'd be home by about 4, 4:30. But you know, I realised I wouldn't be able to do that in the winter because the chickens, the light, you know, these are things you don't even think about. Chickens don't get up until it gets light, and they don't go to bed until it gets dark, so you don't see them. So if I was out all day, I would never know that they were still alive until the weekend. Just things like that. So I started to work from home a bit more. I asked for a 4-day week, and then I wanted to go to 3-day week, and they wouldn't do it. So I was like, whatever. And Gary had said to me, I really worry that, you know, that you just don't want, that you just want to be at home with the cat and the chickens. And I was like, I didn't dare say to him, actually, that is exactly what I want. Because how could anyone want that, and how dare you articulate that? Everybody has to work. But the truth is, that was all I knew, was I wanted to be at home, and I wanted to be with the chickens. So I gave up my job, and then we moved. We didn't downsize, we sort of consolidated properties, and then I wanted more space. We came here and I built the guest house. But I was, it's Sally. Sally pushes all my buttons, bless her. It's all about food. I have my own issues with food. So I really struggle with, you know, obviously I don't feed her anything she shouldn't have, but it's still really hard for me when an animal's begging for food, because I don't want to give it to her because it's not healthy for her, or she's had enough. But at the same time, it's, you know, it's horrible. I feel for her. So that was it. That was why I went to Danielle. It was like, why is my cat bugging me about food all the time? So yeah, absolutely. I mean, my first cat that we had when I had my breakdown, Twiggy, she actually died the day we agreed to sell the house, which was the start of me giving up my job and moving on. And she actually died that morning. I could not believe she got run over. And it never occurred to me that would happen. So, you know, but her job was done. We were moving on. And that, you know, so everything I learned from Danielle. Do you know what's interesting as well? I told Gary this, and he said, well, I told you that when Twiggy died. Danielle talks about when animals are about to pass, like they gaze off, they go off somewhere. And Gary had said, like, the day before she died, it was like she was in another world. And I just hadn't put it together. She was just sitting, and he was like, Twiggy, Twiggy, Twiggy. And like, there was nothing, like nothing. And it took a few minutes for her to sort of, and that's exactly what Danielle says, that's what happens. So, you know, at the time,
I don't remember hearing that. You just eliminated a whole thing with me, with my dogs that are in spirit. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I knew that Twiggy had been instrumental in all of this. There's just this pull of the cat and the chickens to keep me at home meant I couldn't work. You know, it's like it wasn't any more complicated than that. It was just that that knowing that I just had to stay home. I just didn't want to go anywhere. And I did beat myself up a lot when Twiggy died, Gary and I were like, well, maybe we shouldn't have decided to sell the house, not realizing that, of course, it's not going to change anything. You think, she would have got there another way. The end result was the end result. It would have, what you sort of think, well, if we hadn't agreed to sell the house, would she not have died?
Right.
And that's just not how it works, as we've learned. It's like,
no,
yeah.
not at all. And is Twiggy still working with you, even though she's in spirit?
Probably. I don't typically talk to Twiggy a lot. I should. She's given me some crackers, just little snippets. I don't connect her as much as I suppose I should. It's not that I should. She's a very strange energy, Twiggy, in that she was never loving, cuddly, or anything like that. I mean, she was an absolute character, and I loved her with all my heart, but she was not the mothering type at all. She's quite, and her energy's the same. She's quite matter of fact, in your face sort of stuff, and I'm not sure that I have any questions for her. I sort of know what what purposes I need, and she was all very much, you see something, go for it, don't look down, just jump. And she's told me stuff like, I think the last quote I put in my newsletter, it's like, don't worry about stuff that falls between the cracks, it'll all land somewhere. She's just very there's no mollycoddling.
Yeah.
There's no stroking, whereas Sally is just the opposite. Sally is pure love. She loves, and don't get me wrong, Twiggy loved her comfort, but Sally is all about loving you. She gives you a full body cuddle, and she's just what I need. Really.
Yeah. I have the 3 dogs I had before Lucas, and they were all in, I call them my pack. They were all together in the physical at one time, and all 3 lived with us in Michigan, and then lived with us in Wisconsin, and then Noah, the little Westie, passed away, and then we ended up moving to Alaska with India and Bono, and it was those 3 that I first started working with an animal communicator in Wisconsin, and she was telling me first with Noah that he was starting his transition probably about a year prior to him doing so. But none of the animal communicators that I worked with actually ever got to the 3D or got outside of the 3D or to the soul level. They didn't really go to the soul level. It was all very much love. They've had a good life. This is what they're looking for as far as passing away. And one actual animal communicator, when India and Bono were passing, would hear songs. They would speak to her through songs, which every animal communicator, sometimes we fall into, not fall, but we tend to gravitate towards something that means something to us. Like I think our teacher, a lot of times our 80s films, she'll get a lot of references from 80s films because it means something to her in a way for us to be able to hear what they're trying to say and then be able to give the information to the human. But all 3 of them, every now and then will pop in, more so India and Bono. And of those 2, even India, there are a friend of mine, when she passed away, sent me wind chimes for her. And so every time they chime, and right now they're in a place where they don't get a lot of wind. So when they chime, it's really her saying just hello. And many times it's just either any of them will just, if I get a sign, it'll either be, I see a dog that looks like them, or I see different things that I associate with each dog. I have different symbols. It's just them saying, hey, we're here. Hi, how are you? And if they do it more than once, like there was this one time in Alaska, short after she'd passed, and I saw with India, shortly after India passed, and the wind chimes were going off nonstop. A car with a license plate that said India passed me, and something else. There were like 3 boom, 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 and I'm like, okay. And then because we were going through training and whatnot, someone in our class connected with her, and she had a message of things she was working on with me at that time, which I don't remember what it was. But they also, like, really, the lessons don't stop. Like for me, once you learn the thing they're working on with you, then they can either continue and go to what I call the next layer of the onion, or they hand off things to the next teacher, the next animal too. That's been my experience. Have you had that experience?
No, not personally, and not with. I haven't actually. My first reading of an animal transitioning, I suppose, apart from Dr. Khan, Maria's dog. I'd forgotten about that. Actually, was actually Karen. I spoke to Karen at the weekend because her dog was passing. She asked me to connect. I haven't really had that much experience with animals that are passing. But interesting that you should, because what you read out earlier about the Matthew Fox was like to see God in all things. As soon as you said that, I was thinking, so when I started muscle testing, so I do muscle testing, which means I can get a yes, no. This is before I did communication. So I could do yes and no with my animals, obviously nothing more elaborate than that. But I would, that was my form of communication. And every time I looked at them, we had a cottage, and every window I looked out, there was always a robin. I don't know if it was always the same one, but there's, and always looking at me. And I was like, is that, that must be Twiggy then. It must be Twiggy, because it just whenever you look at a robin, they're always looking at you. It's like, statistically, that can't be possible. But and I remember sort of I used to ask questions like that, is that Twiggy? And I get yes. But then I can't remember the different questions I'd ask, but eventually what I got to is all living things are all is everything. I've got a friend actually, Nina, and whenever she sees any animal at all, she's like, oh, it looks like Toby, which is her dog. She always sees something. And it's like that. It's like all these animals at some level are all our animals. It's like, it just, so I still see robins and they make me think of Twiggy, but it's bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that. It's like they are all connected in some way. Yeah. It's really humbling, I find.
Yeah.
But there is that level of, and I don't understand it. I think it's really cool, but there is this, I don't even know if is it a fear of being judged? I suppose it is a fear of being rejected.
As far as
it's like on paper, I don't care that people think I'm a lunatic. It actually doesn't really bother me. So I don't know what my resistance is to opening up this level of communication. I do tell people I'm an animal communicator, but the sort of deeper level of being a soul level animal communicator, this idea that I suppose it's the fact that you are then I have an issue with presenting my truth as truth. I suppose that's that it.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. I don't, as I say, I don't think it bothers me if people think I'm an idiot. Maybe it does.
To tell people that the animals are here to work with us, help us. And I also think people have an aversion to animals teaching us a lesson, when there's this whole industry of people training animals to do what we want them to do, to have it actually be the other way around. That goes against so much, and this just came to me, this goes against so much of what our culture is taught. And it's really hard to explain it. Like I was saying earlier, people will say to me, well, Lucas is just a dog. Like Lucas, we don't leave him alone. When we adopted him at almost 2 years of age, he destroyed 5 crates. He just doesn't want to be left alone. And that's part of something he's working on with me. And as we move into this, we moved 3 times in 1 year. And now that we're in this house, I'm trying to find people that will hang out with him. And in working with him, a fellow animal communicator said, he wants you to be able to say what you need, what I need to feel safe, secure, and protected, which is I need to make sure he's okay, and then I can be okay. And for me, I was trying to more like, oh no, don't judge me because I can't leave my dog alone because he has separation. I'm just going to be over here. Like that's kind of how I was approaching it. And he was like, no, I just need this. So, and you feel like you need that too, that I'm safe and protected so that you can be safe and protected. I'm like, oh, that was a recent finding. And so now we're trying to find different ways, and I don't know where I was going with it. Oh, but anytime I have conversations with people close to me here, there's like, why can't you leave him alone? He's just a dog. Dogs are meant to be left alone. Well, technically, no. They're social creatures, right? They have packs. Like, no, they're not necessarily meant to be left alone. But regardless, it's not what he wants. So let's find out what he wants and honor it too. So, which is a little different than the why they're doing what they're doing, although there's that with my lesson with him. But there's also he deserves as much respect as my needs, and just I think, I mean, right kind of food and right kind of healthcare and walks every day and pads on ground and all that type of stuff. So yeah,
that's one. I mean, one of my problems is oversensitive to what my animals need, I suppose, and that is something that they are working on with me. But I agree, and I have the same issue in myself and my own self-love. It's sort of like I feel like if you love something or someone, that why wouldn't you give it everything you can? And this comes from the fact that I didn't get any of that when I was a child, but it does blur my boundaries to the extent that having to make decisions like about the hens when they're on hormones for eggs, and then I sort of asked a question to the community. We have a community of animal communicators and animal sensitive people, or just sensitive people, saying, what's the moral, do I impose my will on my animals for the better of their health, or do I ask their opinion? And I noticed nobody commented on that apart from someone who missed the point. But it's just like, because people don't want to go into that. These are the depths of questions that I want to go to, and not everybody's willing to go there. So this is why I love this. It's like, if my hen, which she did, Nyla, wanted to come off the hormones because she loves laying, she's so proud of herself, she pops them out, she must be 6.5 or something, she's still popping them out. But the other two are both on hormones and have had health issues specifically about laying, because it's not uncommon with older hens that have been bred for laying, because it just burns them out. And that had pretty much, because he knows I'm the sort of muppet that will pay that much money for hormones, he's suggesting they should all be on hormones now. If you're willing to pay that much money for 2 of them, you pay as well for 3 of them, because it's outrageously expensive. But it makes me so angry. It's like it's a 12-month capsule that only lasts a hen 3 months, and it's about 150, 200 pounds each. I mean, it's anyway. Wow. Don't tell Gary. And
oh my gosh,
what's my point? So I actually let her come off the hormones because she wanted to lay.
I remember, yeah.
And the first day she got stuck, and she ended up in bloody accident and emergency twice.
Yeah.
And I had to pay them anyway for the hormones, on top of the 600 quid or whatever it was, and all their emergency procedures to remove the egg. So was there a lesson in there for me? Yes, possibly. Lesson being that, I'd have to trust my own judgment. It's fine that I love my animals, and it's fine that I let them make decisions, but ultimately, or maybe it just doesn't matter, these things happen. Who knows? But I do over worry about my animals.
I do too. I over worry about, but and it's interesting, we're judging it ourselves as over worry, and it is actually honoring who we are. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's also your question about what does the animal want versus also my judgment for their health. That leads into when it's time for an animal to pass. And because I think some of the largest questions that I deal with in readings is, did I do right by my animal when I helped him or her transition? Do they forgive me? Is a big one. There's a lot of guilt around euthanasia, and or will they give me a sign when it's time? Those are like those are the largest questions that in people. There's just so much grief and so much angst around that whole decision process, because you also then get pressure from friends saying, don't let them suffer, don't let them suffer. Too bad we can't help humans do this, go through the same question too, with some countries, but not this one. Anyway, but it's animals choose how they transition as part of the broader lesson too. And that's also sometimes can be comforting, can be a little jarring too, when we get some of that information too, so.
I think it's a huge comfort knowing that I can't get it wrong, and actually you can probably apply it to the eggs, no eggs, hormones, no hormones, any of those questions. Is I can't get it wrong. Your animal knows how to wrap you around his little finger if he needs to. I was trying to explain this to my sister, and her cat passed recently, and it was a whole thing about, do I take him to the vet? Does he want to pass here? And I was like, he knows exactly what to do to get you in your car and at the vets in a shot. You know, if you are able to even make a discussion about it, that animal's not imposing its will, because they know all they'd have to do is go, oh, like that, and you go, oh, that's right, too bad, oh yeah, right, we're going to the vet, can't deal with this. Do you know what? They know exactly how to manipulate it. That's a strong word, but it is you know, to get their message through to you. They know exactly what to do. So if you're not reading those signs, if you're not getting those signs, then the sign isn't there. You'll know. I always think that. I think I knew that even before animal communication. You know when it's time. They will make sure you know. They're not going to leave that to chance.
No, because everything, you know, and going back to the statement when I said to my boss, and she's like, oh, you're one of those, that everything happens for a reason. And yes, we have free will. I don't want to discount free will, and everything does happen for a reason. It's whether or not you're open to the signs that it's showing you. And if you're not at that moment, it's okay. You're not getting anything wrong, to your point. It's going to show you in another way, and then show you in another way until you're ready to pick up on the signs and go through those steps.
Or who is it who says, oh, the universe hits you on the head with a 2x4?
Yep.
Which we both had. You getting your leg broken, me by having a breakdown.
Right.
You know, you can ignore the signs and ignore the signs that you're peril, and at some point you won't be able to ignore the signs.
Right.
I mean,
when he ran into me, I never felt pain. This is the odd thing about when I broke my leg. I never once felt pain. They were giving me all these drugs. I'm like, well, do I have to take them? Because I don't feel nothing. It wasn't numb. I just never felt pain. But I remember I was already an animal communicator, just not a soul level animal communicator. I'd already graduated from my other, almost graduated from my other teachers. And I remember saying to him, why did you do that? And he goes, you needed to be knocked off your pins. And I was like, knocked off my pins? And he was saying, yeah, you gotta shake everything loose as to what you've been doing. And then now that it's been 3 years, and I keep checking in because the lesson keeps getting deeper. There was finding your voice, there was standing on your own, there was, it keeps coming. It's the gift that keeps on giving as far as all this goes. But yeah, it's amazing. And he's asleep I just looked down at him with a smile on his face because he knows we're talking about all this too. He's just like, yeah, this is great. He's loving this episode.
That's a nice place to end it, Julie, isn't it?
I think so. He's still smiling. I'll say yes. Yeah. So I guess I just want to say, though, if anybody watching this has any questions about soul level animal communication, please do not hesitate to reach out to either one of us. You can also learn more just by also checking out our teacher, Danielle MacKinnon, but who's written a book, by the way. It's called Animal Lessons. But yeah, we are happy to answer any questions. If you want to learn more about it too in other episodes, leave a note and whatnot too. So yeah.
Or if you want your animal read live on Zoom, we could do that.
Oh, we could do that. We could schedule a show and have people. Yeah, I think that would be fun. Yes, if you want an animal communication reading from us live, put your comment, put your information in the notes, and we'll contact you and set something up.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's a great idea. Cool. All right.
So I think that wraps it up for today. As we said, any questions you have, whether about animal communication or anything else we've talked about, or if you have any ideas about things you'd like us to talk about, you can put the comments down below, or you could contact us on Facebook, Instagram, and this is YouTube, this bit, I suppose. So yeah, just get in touch. I'm Kate Foggo, this is Julie Hurt, and together we are two humans being, and we are making light.